This is your Nature Journal Educators Forum. If you are new to this, the way that it works is we just have a critical mass of people who either as parents, as homeschool educators, as formal educators, as classroom teachers, museum educators, people who are teaching nature journaling in one way or another. And so some folks with large groups, some with small, and we have ended up kind of getting this kind of critical mass brain trust going where there's just so many good ideas and thoughtful ideas that come out of crowdsourcing our discussions here. And we've just we've got a, so I want to first just recognize the collective wisdom of this group, and I really appreciate that. So thank you all for being here, riding along, helping with co-hosting today. We have Ivea Moore and Brian Higginbotham, and they're going to be sharing their thoughts and ideas as well. But I want to just remind everybody that this is a forum where we want to hear from you and your ideas, what's working, what's not, what from your experience really kind of pulls this together. Today's topic is going to be really interesting. We're going to be talking about how to start and run your own nature journaling group, whether that is a local one in your community, one through a school or a nature center. Anybody who feels comfortable doing so, I'm going to encourage you to turn on your video, and then what I'm curious to see is just sort of by show of hands, just sort of wave at the screen if you have started or tried to start a nature journaling group in your area, either online. So we've got a number of folks with some experience with this, or a little bit, un grupito, so we really want to draw on your collective wisdom. Things that I thought might be kind of a useful kind of run of show today would be to we've done some things specifically about doing online, and I just heard Melinda Nakagawa is in the house. So Melinda, I'm making you a co-host as well. Also helping us with co-hosting here, Melinda Nakagawa. So I thought that, so this isn't going to be so much about doing an online program. This is going to be focusing a little bit more on live events when that is safe, right? Just want to remind people that the Delta variant of COVID is 1,000 times, replicates 1,000 times more in your upper respiratory tract. And that makes, when you breathe out, the respiratory droplets that are carried in that are much more infectious for people around us. And we don't want to jeopardize the safety of people in our community. And so I just want to remind people to we want to make sure that, it's sort of like the oath of Hippocrates, where you first of all do no harm. So if everybody comes back from your field trip and comes back healthy and safe, we're doing great. But we do want to really take care of other people. We're going to be focusing on today's topic about sort of starting a group, having and kind of some logistics of live events. And we could probably also tie a little bit of online things to that, but we have done a number of educator forums specifically about best practices in online. And there will be one of those coming up fairly soon where some researchers, a researcher has kind of investigated what's been going on with this online group and will help us break it down and think about some best practices there. So I was thinking like what do you need to get started? What do you need as a coordinator to make this work? How to get started, some details about communication with people, and some logistics about running the events on the ground. So those topics are all on the table, and anything else that we want to bring up. I also want to encourage people, please do share thoughts, comments, and ideas in the chat. But that's a great way to kind of crystallize your idea and kind of put in a placeholder for it. But those chat comments don't show up in the video feed, and dyslexics like me tend not to read as much. So I also want to encourage people, first drop the thought in there and then also weave it into our conversation. We really, really want to hear from all of you. So with that said, let's just kind of get started on what you need to have as a facilitator, as somebody, as a leader for a nature journal club. Question to all, love to throw it up and open for discussion. What credentials do you need as an artist, as a scientist, as a or other forms in order to get this going? Love to throw that open as an open question to anybody. You can just raise your hand. And hey, Jack, could I put you on to kind of flesh that idea out? So I'm going to spotlight. This is Jack. Hey there. So I saw you doing this.
Hey, Mr. Yeah. So hey, I'd just like to introduce myself real quick. I'm sorry.
Yes, please.
So my name's Jack. Hi, everybody. I'm really excited to be able to participate in the Nature Journal workshops and the Nature Journal Educator Forums. I've been a longtime follower of Mr. Jack's work, and he's really been one of the largest influences on my artwork. I'm a self-taught teen nature artist. I live in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and so I'm really looking forward to this workshop. I am also thinking about really wanting to start a nature journal club in my area, Bucks County Nature Journal Club. It's really just kind of an idea that I've been thinking about, but I held up this zero thing because I've heard you, Mr. Jack, talk about before about you really don't need to have any that much experience as an artist or a scientist to get started. And for me, I'm a self-taught artist, and so I've kind of been journaling or drawing nature for about maybe 10 years or so, maybe a little more, but I don't really have that much experience as a scientist. So, but I still think that I might be able to start some sort of a nature journal club. But yeah, just to go back to what Mr. Jack, as I've heard him say before, you really don't need that much experience in either one of those, art or science, in order to be able to start something. Because you learn as you go from members who actually are artists or scientists. They can help people, and you can get sort of a community going there that helps others learn things from each other. So
yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Jack. And welcome to this community. Really great to have you with us. So Jack's spot on.
Thank you.
Jack is absolutely right. You don't need to. There's no credential that you need. You don't need a certain number of years of experience. your level of as a scientist, your level as a nature observer, as a naturalist, your can be anything. If you've got a lot of experience, that's great. If you don't, that's great. I'd say, so you don't need any credentials. And the really interesting thing is you don't need to be somebody who's already a drawer, right? You don't need to, and a lot of people think that this is like nature journaling. It's all about like making drawings in the woods, right? The drawing is a tool to connecting ourselves with nature. And we're going to get better and better at that tool the more that we roll with this. So just as Jack was saying, do not just think like, when I kind of reach this level, then I can start. No, you can start absolutely right now and have it be a really, really successful group. So let's say you're not a naturalist or not somebody with a big tool kit full of art techniques. And you want to learn these things and you want to kind of disseminate that out to your group. How do we do that? How, if you are not already kind of coming to the game with all that stuff in your tool belt, you show up on your first day, what do you do?
Jack, were you asking Jack that question, or were you asking?
No, that's a question thrown up into the whole community, the whole group.
I'll dive in and say what I would do.
Excellent.
Or what I have done. When I first started my nature journal group, the intention was I want a nature journal with other people, because when I went to the first Wild Wonder in person, I met 300 other people who liked to nature journal. And for the last 20 years, I had nature journaled by myself. Like, I didn't know there was a thing called nature journaling that was quote unquote official, right? I kept my own journal with a background in science and just a love of art. And I also want to say, I would invite people to maybe stop using the "I'm not a trained artist," because that doesn't help anybody. And when we say that I'm not a trained artist, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a teacher, what you're kind of setting up to tell people not to trust you or that you don't know what you're doing. And really, I would just invite you, just leave that out, because the people that are going to come, they want to be in nature. They want to learn how to nature journal. Maybe they don't know how to do it. And you've had one more day or maybe a little bit more time. And my approach has always been, I am not the leader that's imparting information. And I don't have to know how to do everything technically perfectly, because that's not the point of nature journaling. What I want to share is, let's get outside. This is how you slow down to look at nature. This is how I choose my subject. This is one way that you can do your journaling. And let's go and demonstrate. Let's all go out journaling. And then at the end, hey, let's share what you guys all discovered, because I have one set of eyes and a mind, and then there's 10 of you. So there's 10 other sets of eyes and minds, and we've been in the same place, and let's share. What did nature show you? So that has been my approach in teaching, in doing online nature journal clubs and in person. Mm-hmm. And I also want to say that there is an inner voice, an inner critic, if you want to say it, that will compare me and my skill, like, oh, you don't have a degree in education, you don't have a degree in art, you don't have this, you don't have that. And so each time I have to just be present and hear that voice and say, I'm going to be me, and I'm going to present me in this moment, because we're all on a journey. I'm on my journey, you're on your journey. We've come to nature journaling for different reasons, and we've done it for different amounts of time. So just trust that if you are individually getting that inkling to start a group, to engage with other people, then you are meant to do this. And you don't have to have any credentials.
Yes. So Belinda just said you are meant to do this. Anybody taking sketch notes, turn that into kind of an emphasized part of this. Billy Joe has some ideas that are kind of backing up what you're saying, kind of elaborating on that. I'd love to bring you also in on this, Billy Joe.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Billy Joe.
Hi. Hey, Melinda, how are you?
Great.
It's so great to see everyone again. It's really fun to sort of be back. I've honestly been missing everybody on their vacations, but it's really great to be back. I have to give a shout out. My colleague Christine Chappell is with us today because her and I are going to be starting a nature journaling club amongst our staff members. We are going to start. Hi, Chris. There she is. And so it's her first time joining us, and I'm really excited that she's here. But that's kind of our mantra as well, right? Like just kind of starting out sort of slow, just with our staff members, and using it as a way for us to sort of get together outside of work, you know, and we've used this term a lot, like just to kind of nature nerd together. And that's the whole point. And so I really wanted to agree with Jack and Melinda in that you don't need to be experts. Chris and I aren't experts, right? We honestly get together a few weeks ago. We nerded it for like 3 hours online, just chatting about like how we were going to do it and like all of our cool ideas. So, and neither of us have a background in art. I mean, we both work as outdoor educators, so we have a little bit of that science, but we're not experts, and we just can't wait to get together and have a lot of fun together. And I come back to some of the comments that we've heard over and over again. And you know, Jack, you've said this a million times, like if you give yourself a year, you will see such a difference in your nature journaling. And I started probably last October with all of you, and I have already seen a huge increase in what I'm doing, how I'm doing my layouts, what that looks like. And it's really just for me. I honestly, like, I'm posting them online to share with other educators. And I really found that to be quite freeing, to be like, it doesn't matter if they don't like it. I don't really care. It's because it's not about a pretty picture. It's about the fact that I'm here and I'm putting myself out there, and to share those ideas. And I think that's where Melinda is like, you know, you nature journal by yourself, like it's way more fun to like nerd out with somebody else, right? Like, why do you think we come here every week, right? Like, I don't miss this because this is the most fun that I get to have, you know, in my, you know, work week now that kids aren't around me and stuff right now. And I love it, right? Like, and so I think that's the same thing, is that you want to get a group of people that, you know, you love and you respect and really have amazing ideas. And I think also, going on what Melinda said, you know, that little voice in the back of your head that is, you know, critiquing, you know, it's a really great way to learn to let that go when you find like-minded people who are an advocate for you and you are an advocate for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's such a beautiful way of sort of thinking about it. And it sort of makes that voice get smaller and smaller and smaller, where you can just really breathe in and you walk away and you're like, my bucket was filled today. Like that conversation, that experience, you know, whatever it is, your bucket was filled, and you can walk away feeling really great about that. And you have this really amazing piece of, you know, documentation of that experience at the same time. I think you can't go wrong with that. So
just notice how Billy Joe's approach here is just, it's playful, it's joyful, right? I know you're going to have fun out there. I know you're going to have so much fun. And instead of like, you know, so when you kind of, you know, when you kind of arrive on the scene with Billy Joe there, that it's not going to be welcome to the Nature Journal Club.
You can see Christine laughing.
We're going to be analyzing the sporophytes of ferns with stipple. Right. And like, no, you're going to be, it's joyful.
Yeah, but that's the whole point, right? Like, isn't that the whole point of, you know, being outside and stepping outside of your comfort zone should be a little bit scary, but it should be joyful, right? Like there's got to be joy. Otherwise, why would we ever step outside of that comfort zone, right? Like you gotta go out of there, and then that comfort zone just continues to get bigger and bigger. And I just think, like, why not have fun? There's so many other stuff going on in life that is really stressful and can be a bit of a downer and all this stuff. So like get outside with some awesome people and just have a lot of fun. Honestly, like it's just I'm really excited. Like Chris and I have been talking about this for about, I don't know, about 2 months. And so we've started a little Teams chat. We've got all of our staff members on, and we're coming up with a fun name because we thought we can't just have a nature journaling club and not have a fun name. So,
Right.
like we're just doing all this kind of fun stuff. And I think we're going to start in September. And so that's our goal, is to get, when everybody gets back from vacation, for us to like go for it. So, and we're making it family friendly. There's lots of stuff who have kids. And so, it's not just about us staff, but really bringing our families as well. And most of us have really young children. And so getting them out there as well. So I think that's exciting.
I wanted to add, Billy Joe. I mean, I just love your energy. I think I would love to nature journal with you. I think it'd be really fun. But I also want to say, I identify as an extroverted person, and I love people, and I'm not afraid to strike up conversations. However, I know that there's a lot of people around me. A lot of my actually close friends identify as introverted. And I want you, if you're one of those, to know that you don't have to be like me or like Billy Joe or anybody else. I want to give you permission to be you.
Yeah, I love that quote. I wrote it down, Melinda. Be
Okay.
you. I wrote it down in my notes, right? And
it's so important. Yeah,
absolutely, because you're going to bring something so different to the
yes.
table. And, even though we have a small staff, and you would think outdoor educators were wild and crazy, not everybody is. We have the me, and then we have everybody else, is on the spectrum somewhere. And, I have a daughter, and Chris will attest, my eldest is very much like quieter. She's a little bit more of an introvert. And so, it's also the extroverts knowing when to tame it down as well, and give those people the space to be able to do what they do, and then to come back together. And I think that if you're leading the group, I think that that's a really important piece too, is to make sure that you're assessing the people in the group and really giving the space, which I think is important too.
Because there's no right way to do it. It's not like Jack is saying your nature journal club has to be like this trademarked Jack's Nature Journal Club. It's not. We're here talking about it because we are all individuals. We are experts in our own life, right? No one else can replace you. So like going back to like, if you have that inkling of like, I want to gather people together, then do it. And don't worry about like, how many emails should I send? Should I have an email list? Should I have a Facebook page? Do I need a website? What activities should I do? What order should I do it? How many times a month? What location? How many people? All of those things at least they prevented me from actually taking a step. And I just dove in and started. This was a couple years ago. I just picked a date. Jack and I had talked. Pick a date that works for you, that is going to fit in your life, and then advertise it, let people know. And the people that resonate with you will come, and it really is about that, and I think that if you guys have been online, you're probably creating your network right now, connecting with people online. So I think that when we do go back in person, you'll have a good starting group.
Build your community. Right? Like, I think that's the thing, is build your community, and you can't have too many people in your community, right? You can't. Everyone's coming with something so special to the community that there's never not enough room for one more person. And that's how I kind of think about it as well. So I think that's beautiful.
I'd like to thank you so much. This is I knew we'd get on a roll here. I'd like to bring in Mr. Brian Higginbotham for his thoughts on this here. Thank you so much for being with us as well.
Yeah, thank you. It's really fun to see you all again, and I love the enthusiasm. I would say for my first session, I felt like I was going to have to do more than work than like I actually did. And so that at least was a little bit intimidating, along with like the credentialing thing. It's like, I don't know, can I really do this? And so the amount of scaffolding you need to bring in, I think, really varies depending on your audience. So if you're working with kindergartners, you're going to have a different amount of preparation to do than if you're meeting with adults. And so I had several activities we could do. I did one and found that with maybe 10 adults, they were somewhat enthusiastic, but there was some pushback. And I think what they really liked, or what our group at least seemed to like, was just setting an expectation that we're going to do this, and then we're going to walk over here and do this, and then we're going to take lunch, and then we're going to do this. And so having that schedule and understanding that they're going to be in a certain place for a certain amount of time, and having walked through that area previously will give you confidence that you could sit down there and know what you're looking at and know what might be of interest. And you don't know what's going to be there that specific day, but at least understanding that the paths are accessible and all of that, right?
That's huge, Brian. Yeah,
so that for me was a big deal. And then the other part was like, I just copied Jack's format. So we're going to meet at 10 a.m. We're going to have lunch at 12. We're going to finish at 4. And after lunch, we did a quick walk, and that was it. People didn't want to stay around anymore. It got hot. And so we just called it. And then in subsequent meetings, I found that format just worked better. They were able to commit to, a couple hours. We'd have a little bit of time and journal sharing together. And, you don't have to force it to be something that people don't want, right? So just understanding the group, I think, was helpful.
So, yeah, mine were shorter. I did 2 a month, and I did a Sunday morning and a Friday morning. I like weekdays because as an entrepreneur, I have flexibility and there's less people outside. So you can go to a place where maybe it doesn't have a lot of space, and you can have, like on a trail, right? You can't be on a trail on a weekend when people are walking by. So that's how I advertise mine, is like one was like the third Friday of the month, the second Sunday of the month, something like that. And I picked it, and having the consistency is really helpful so that people can plan for it on their calendars. And also for me too, like knowing, okay, these are the days that I need to block out where it's like my family needs to know that mom's going to be out doing this thing. I opted to do mine shorter because as my schedule is, I have a very full schedule, and I didn't want to block out an entire day for this, because I think at the time I was going to Jack's, driving up to Jack's monthly thing, and I wanted to support Brian, and all these things going on. So that looking at my schedule and thinking about the energy that I am going to put into this, I did mine shorter. I think mine was about 3 hours. And then but sometimes people just hung out afterwards, so having that flexibility, to hang out. But really my goal was to bring people together, to do this activity together in person so they get a feel for it. But what I really wanted is that everyone does this on their own when we leave our group, so that it's not like the only time the nature journal is in this gathering.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what we're hearing here is the schedule, the most important thing is that it works for you. It's sustainable for you, right? If you're organizing it, you get to wrap it around your own schedule. If you want to do it on weekends, do it on weekends. If you want to do it on weekdays, do it on weekdays. Mm-hmm. And if that works for you, you have just improved the world. Now there's this club that is happening on weekdays, and so let yourself do that. I think that a few things that you do want to bring to the table. One is that you authentically like nature journaling, right? Because Melinda's saying, like, yeah, be you. You're gonna let your freak flag fly, and if you're not into this, it's okay to go to the knitting circle. Really, really, it is. That's awesome. Or you could be learning Italian with those folks down at the cafe, if you're socially distanced. And that's okay too. But so you want to make sure that if nature journaling is your jam, then doing it with your tribe is going to be even more fun. Right? So it should be something that you enjoy doing. It helps if you like people. If you don't like hanging out with other people, then don't start a nature journal group. It's okay. If you want to just do this on your own, that's totally fine too. But I think you'll find that if you do, when you get to do this with a little group of people, there's just so much fun, and your growth as a journaler will really, really rock it because you get everybody else's ideas. But I'd say one thing that does help is having a little bit of some organizational skills and sense, because what you are going to be coordinating is communication with people, and so it helps to have some organization skills. I am dyslexic. I tend to be all over the map, so I struggle with this part, but it's worth it for me. I don't think of myself as somebody who's being good with organizing things, but I find that helps. There's a wonderful poem by Mary Oliver that starts, one day you finally knew what you had to do and began. Right? So I want to just give you permission to begin. Right? And there's gonna be all sorts of thoughts and ideas kind of holding you back. But it's something that is going to help in your kind of organization of this is if you can be consistent. So consistency helps. If you're going to be doing it once a month, that's fine. If you're going to be doing it twice a month, that's fine. If you're going to be doing it once a week, that's fine. But the more that you can be consistent, and things will come up because life happens where that's not going to really be easy to do, and that's okay. But if you can be consistent, then people can get it on their schedules, and it helps them to then be consistent with you. And if we know, like, oh, it's Wednesday, it must be Nature Journal Educators Forum, right? Then we're all here with bells on. But if it was sometimes and then sometimes not, then that is harder for people's schedules. It's nice if they can just put it on their schedule as a repeating item, right? And then they're there with you, right? Let's bring in Evea for more.
I just really only just had a question. I guess I was wondering if anybody has any insights on this. Are there any major things to consider or any tips that help if you're starting or leading a group as an extrovert versus as an introvert? I guess that's just one thing I was wondering, just because I'm wondering if anybody is an introvert and has certain things that they, that certain struggles that they had to work on overcoming, just because I know that, several of us are introverts, several of us are extroverts. So I just wondered if anybody had any tips.
Let's throw this one open to the floor. Does anybody have any thoughts or ideas on that? Particularly if you, I think it's probably easy for the extroverts to get up there and kind of like. But also would love to hear from people who have more of a kind of come from a quieter space and less public space. Shannon, thanks for being with us.
So I'm definitely an introvert, and actually was absolutely terrified of public speaking. So delayed university for a number of years because of it. I was that terrified of it. And now I teach elementary school regularly and full time. So what I find to get over that is I use my skills and organization to help overcome it. I do really well if I plan ahead. So if I was, I'm actually looking at starting a nature journaling group, possibly for the fall, but it'll be a little different. We were challenged to start it. I'm online teaching, so we were asked to try and get the kids outside, away from their computers, using our curriculum. So that's my goal here. But if I was meeting with a group, I would still do it, and I would use my skills. So knowing what questions, knowing what format, and maybe even taking like a little day plan with me. And that usually helps me get over that part of my introvert. People actually often think I'm an extrovert because of it, but it's because I feel confident if I've prepared myself.
Great. I think that's a really good thought. Aisha, good to see you. I'm going to bring you in on this.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I was just going to say, as an introvert, I have realized more and more that I'm not going to be setting up a nature journal club and having to be that regular. But what I did was I don't think she's here today, but I ended up reaching out to Ann Chadwick in the group, and we got together sort of, I guess it's been a once a month thing, once near her, once near me, and finding community that way with just one or two people. So let's call it a mini club. I'm trying to form mini clubs. I'm trying to talk a few other friends into that as well. So I think for me, that's going to be a better style. And if there was a club near me, I might drop in once in a while if I felt that day I could handle a large group. But I'd give myself the option of an out. So that's where I am on the introvert extrovert piece. Also, I have actually another question for the group. This is not exactly a nature journal club, but an organization near me heard I was doing all this nature journaling, and amongst some other classes I might offer there, in botany actually, they've also asked me to offer nature journaling. And I've been resisting that because I was like, and I got shot, my friend shot me down too. As soon as I mentioned that, she's like, oh God, no, you're not an artist. There's no way you can be doing that. And so I was like, I have this group meeting and I'll throw it out there because I feel like our whole thing has been not a pretty picture. I am a naturalist, I am an educator, I am an observer, and I am certainly me, as Melinda reminded us. So I am still wondering, can I, especially because, I'm not teaching in a school anymore, so I am looking at some ways to do some adult teaching and actually get paid for it. And it's like, can I offer at least a one-time intro to nature journaling and get some people into it? Am I not legit enough to do that? I've been trying to figure that out. So I'm just wondering, any thoughts from you all, since you have a lot more experience with this? I feel like I would mostly wave around Jack's book and say, here are a bunch of exercises I've loved and help me go deeper with nature. Yeah, that's where I'm sitting right now.
Aisha, this hurts my heart. You are so amazing. You're one of my favorite people that's on this call every week.
Thank you. You're gonna make me cry, actually. It's very hard to have stopped teaching and try to rethink. It's a real identity hit. It's a real identity hit.
I just think, who cares if you can't, you're not the best drawer, right? You have so much other things to offer. And I personally have taken so much of what you've said over the last number of months to my own practice. The concept of, when we talked about you're going to have to forgive me, the list of things, and we were talking about perspectives and
the concept day, the concept.
Honestly, that isn't something that is just taught in a classroom. Adults would benefit from that as well, especially in the climate that we're in. And I just think your presence and in the way that you speak, the way that you carry yourself, I think you would be an asset to anybody having you come in and share your expertise. And I just think whoever said that to you, you need to check them, because that's it's not a great thing to say. And
thank you. She's very much coming from the artist perspective,
for sure. And you just have to say in the most Aisha and nice way possible, this isn't an art class. This isn't an art class. This is a nature journaling session, and it's not about a pretty picture, although I appreciate it. And I would love for you to come in one time and maybe teach a concept in art, and I will show you how to nature journal. And that is how I would sort of deal with that, because you have so much to offer. And I think that it would actually be really bad for you not to pursue that from a personal level, but all the people who would miss out hanging out with you. I've really enjoyed my time hanging out with you every week. So I can't see why anybody in your area would have any less of an experience than I personally had. So I just had to tell you that it doesn't
Thank
come
you,
across in the
Rachel.
chat very well. I just think that you're awesome. So you need
Thank
to
you
be
so
confident
much.
with that for sure.
Yeah, we're seeing a bunch of agreements with Billy Joe here. 1,000% is a lot of agreement. So yeah, there's all sorts of reasons why we kind of tell ourselves we're not good enough. We're but on this sort of stuff, like just if you do a little bit, that's a little bit that wasn't happening before, and as Billy Joe is emphasizing, the energy that you bring to things and the thoughtfulness with which you approach things, it's wonderful. You're a blessing to this group to get to hang out with. You will rock this as you decide to do it. And if you don't decide to, that's okay too. But if you want to, like all the resources that I've created, everything is open source. Right. So if you see anything there that in any way you want to use directly or adapt in your own way, you may. And even if people don't give you that invitation, everybody else's ideas that seem to be really good, also, everything is sort of derivative of like, I'm taking this piece from here and this piece from here and this piece from here. If you take something that you see somebody else doing and you kind of like that and you kind of morph it into your own thing, but just by processing through you, it becomes yours. So even if they haven't given you permission, I would say steal like an artist. And
Steal like
and
it's true. Sometimes when people would watch me teach, they'd be like, "You're amazing," and I'd be like, "But everything I've gotten has come from that cloud of teachers before me, and I just twist it in my own way. But there's no new idea on the planet. I'm sorry." But
well, or actually, I would say that there's new ideas all the time, because we're constantly taking things and we kind of percolate them through our own experience and fabric.
I should revise that saying, yeah.
And
if we go back to Melinda, be
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, be you.
Yeah.
Whatever comes through you, it's going to be authentic. It's going to be real. And there's a poem by David White in which he says, everything, anyone or anything that does not bring you alive is too small for you. So if you get into this and it's not your jam, that's okay. But you have
I am so obsessed with nature journaling now because of this group. I mean, my little journal goes with me everywhere, and my pencil kit is my pride and joy of all my color pencils. People are like, "You're a little OCD," and I'm like, who doesn't want to arrange all their color shades? And when you're not sure what to draw, you rearrange all your color shades while you think about what to do. And Jack has shown me how to capture my oak titmice and all their different poses on my sunflowers, and that I don't, they're so freaking cute, and their little crests going up and down. And I watch the motion video so I can do dotted lines of going up and down. And
so what exactly don't you have to share with people?
Artistic technique, I was
no,
technique.
Listen to what you just said. Listen to everything you just said. You're gonna play that back later. You're gonna play that back later, and you're gonna go, "Oh yeah, I just answered my own question because I just said it right there. Everything that I have to share, I just said it right there." So you're gonna watch this video when Jack posts it, and you're gonna fast forward right to this section.
Who is that woman?
There you go.
Aisha, I'd invite you to embrace the growth mindset, like we've talked about, and just be okay with where you're at, and to show others that you're on a learning process too.
Melinda? Is Melinda talking?
Yes, it is.
Oh, share my growth edge. That is a really interesting thought, because I'm comfortable with learning to draw and working on it, but I didn't feel like I could be a teacher. But of course, I know that as a teacher. I know
so come to the point where you're comfortable with being uncomfortable. If you could be comfortable with being comfortable with discomfort, I don't know, something like that. The way that I teach is, if I have a subject that I feel like I don't know a whole lot about or how to draw it, I just say, you know what, I don't know how to draw this thing that we see right now, but this is how I'm going to start. And I will share the little strategies on how I approach something new. I think that is really helpful. And oh my gosh, it's so freeing to me, because I don't have to know it. I just have to know how to approach it. That's the whole point of nature journaling. How do we look at nature and how do we observe it, be curious, and record it in our journal? I'm going to use words to describe it because I don't have a mastery of shading technique like Jack. So I'm going to use a diagram. I'm going to write words. I'm going to maybe take an impression. I'm going to take a photo, whatever tools you have. And when we embody that comfort, being comfortable with not knowing how to do something, then we give other people permission. And that's, no one taught me how to do it. It's just what I have been compelled to do. And I've gotten that courage over the last year and a half because I keep coming back and doing what is scary. So if I can do this, you can too. You don't have to be an extrovert. You don't have to have a science degree. You don't have to be an artist. And I think we have to keep telling ourselves it's all about mindset, right? Because even I have to remind myself, I am not here to already know how to do stuff. I am a student of nature. So I'm learning with you. And maybe I have a little bit more experience, so I have some strategies and techniques down, but there's always something new. And if I approach it with that, beginner's mind of like, I'm here to learn what nature has to show me and come on with me, let's see what we can discover. Having that open attitude, then I don't have to know, right? I don't have to know a certain amount, because that puts a lot of pressure on me. If I felt like my first few nature journal sessions were terrifying because I thought I was going to have to show you how to draw, and I'm not a drawer. I don't have confidence in my drawing. So that was the voice. And I know that when that critical voice gets loud and what I want to do, this thing I want to do, the critical voice is loud, I know I'm on the right track. It means that that critical voice that's keeping me safe in my bubble of comfort, it's trying to keep me safe, right? It's that old voice. But when I hear that critical voice, I know I'm in the right direction. I just need to get enough courage to step up over that line. And what I'm met with is so much love and appreciation. No one is going to be standing there like this, Aisha, saying, she doesn't know what she's talking about. I mean, come on, look at our community. The people that are going to resonate with you are just going to be loving and appreciative and filled with gratitude. Just be you.
Melinda. Thank you, Melinda. And it's making me realize as you all talk that this is a great point for anybody starting a club or going about it in any way, is we're sharing our own path of becoming nature journalers to people who are newer to it. And in fact, maybe we have in some ways more to share because it's more new for us. Like I still remember figuring out how to depict motion, because that was literally 3 months ago that I tried to figure it out, or how to capture a twisted leaf, because that was just 2 months ago with Jack, or some of those things, as opposed to I've been doing it for 10, 20 years and I've forgotten the journey along the way. So good food for thought as always, you guys.
This conversation, this is one of our best yet. I would love to bring on, am I pronouncing your name correctly, Keva or Kiva?
It's Keva.
Keva, it's so good to have you with us. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey, everybody. Oh, I just was going to add for Aisha, I teach drawing, and I was just going to say, don't even worry about it. A lot of times it seems like you're supposed to have some magical skills, and actually it's really just learning how to see, because a lot of times when we're drawing, most times when we draw something, we're not really looking at the thing. We sort of have like a memory of the thing and we're drawing what we think we're seeing, but most times that's not really what we're seeing. And I think with my students, that's where a lot of them get terrified and they're like, oh no, I can't do it. But I think if you're coming from any background, but particularly a science one, actually, it makes it even easier because you already have those skills. And if you're nature journaling, even if you're brand new, then, it already means that you're sort of interested in observing things and seeing what's there. So you're already doing it, probably. Like you're already amazing at drawing. You just don't know it yet.
Thank you, Keva.
And then the other thing I was going to add, re-introverts was, I don't know if anybody's familiar with the term HSP, like highly sensitive person, or sensory processing sensitivity. So when I go out, usually I have to I imagine I have like a little tank, and I try to like chill out the day before so that I'm not doing like a whole lot. So my tank is super full. And then when I get to nature journaling and it's lots and lots of people, I can kind of like be my best self and like totally extrovert. And then afterwards, like make sure you have enough time to process all the fun that you had. But usually, I don't know if that helps anybody, but that usually helps me.
Yeah, Kiva, thank you. I now, as a HSP, sandwich big days with nothing before the day and nothing after the day. And if I don't do the little sandwiches, I fry myself out and usually get a migraine or something that really reminds me I fried myself out. But those little sandwiches in the calendar.
Yeah.
That's really helpful. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I'm looking over here at the clock, and I see we're kind of coming towards the end of our hour here. Before we do, I wanted just to, for people who are kind of wondering, it'd be nice to kind of go along on somebody else's field trip and see how they do it before I run my own. So I thought that in the next, I want to take 5 minutes and take everybody here on just a little field trip together. And we're going to look at kind of the logistics of how this might go. Remember, everybody's going to have a slightly different approach. And so how long things are, all that sort of stuff. But sometimes it just helps to kind of visualize it. And so I've actually assembled a crack team behind the scenes here that I want to share with people. And I am going to be going to them in just a moment. All right. So the first thing that you're going to do, I have visual aids. This is your site. This is your site. And the first thing you do is you come out the day before or the week before, or maybe even a month before, and you're going to check out the place. And you're looking at like, how hot is it? Where do I want to go? If I go over here, oh, there's the lake. Like there's some phenomena here that kind of get, the thing I'm looking for is, does this get me excited? Does this get me interested? So I just kind of wander around the place, as Brian Higginbotham was saying. I want to kind of know the place before I arrive. So I'm not kind of at the trailhead going, I think it's this way, and then realize, oh no, we should have gone that way, right? So it helps to know the place in advance. You're also thinking about your group's comfort. How much shade is it? How cold is it? How windy is it? All those are things that, is it wheelchair accessible? Is it accessible for elders? All of these are things that I want to be able to communicate to other people before I go. And then you're going to go away. You're going to have a really good night's sleep. And then people are going to arrive. So what happens the day of the event, you go home. Actually, we're going to go back home for a second. And what you're going to do is you're going to, get on your computer or whatever it is. And you're going to share the publicity announcement about this. So maybe it is, maybe you have a Facebook page. Maybe you have a meetup group. Maybe you have an email list. Maybe on the local square, there's just a thing that you post. Maybe you're doing this through your local Y, and they have a bulletin board where they kind of make announcements and things. Whatever it is, you're going to do your kind of communication, and that could be a whole topic for another time. But let's say that Nextdoor. I never thought about Nextdoor. And does Craigslist have that too? Oh, how interesting! See, all sorts of cool ideas coming out right here. Then the day arrives. Right? And what happens is you're going to get there and you're going to find all of these people milling around, right? And what we want to do is you want to sort of start things off, but it might be intimidating to kind of get up there and say like, hey, everybody, here is what's going on. This is like, especially if you're an introvert, this is a challenging place. So what you want to do is, if you're really, really introverted, then you kind of go over here to your buddy and you say, all right, this is what I want you to say. right? And then your buddy's going to get out there in the middle of the crowd, and your buddy's going to say, all right, I want everybody to meet a stranger and find out what that stranger's name is and something that they are passionate about, right? And then all of a sudden, all these sort of strange groups are pairing off, and it's not about you, right? It's not about, oh, look, you get to meet that person too, right? And so now people are having this kind of intimate connection. What you're doing is you're building relationships between these people. And if you want to make a group, the stronger the relationships are between us, the better and better off you're going to be. Right? Now that you've done this, it's a little bit less intimidating to kind of say, all right, let's all get together here. And hey, I'm just so excited that you're here. And we're going to be doing this thing called nature journaling. And what I find it's useful to do is to give people kind of an overview of the day of here's what's going to be happening, here's what you can expect. And sometimes to give them a little project or a little idea just to help them get started. And so that might be, oh, look at these fall leaves. And you've done this, a little bit of study, you've got your set of colored pencils, and you're going to do, you can do a demonstration on like, this is how you can like overlap colored pencils to get all these different colors. You might want to try that too. But by the way, if you don't feel comfortable doing a technique thing like that, you could also do a science thing. You could say like, oh, we're here in fall, and it's this time of year that all the chlorophyll is breaking down in the leaves. And look at all the colors. These are colors that have been hiding in there. So you can kind of give people the seasonal thing. But let's say you're not a scientist. That's okay too. You could teach people. You could sort of say like, we're going to be using this idea of I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of. But anyway, you're going to give them a little nugget, maybe a 5-minute nugget of something to take with them. And then you know that down here is the pond and juicy things are happening there. So you say, everybody going to come on down this way. We're going to go to the pond. And everybody comes to the pond. And when you're at the pond, everybody then has a chance to spread out and do their nature journaling thing. And you've done a little bit of stuff. You are the finger pointing the way. You don't want it to be about you. You just want to point people in the right direction. And now you're letting them be out with nature. That's why they came. And so your task is really not that big. And then what's going to happen is as it gets towards lunchtime, you've told them that at such and such a time, we're all going to gather back here. And you've got 2 picnic tables. One here is where you put the potluck. I love potlucks. If it's possible to make any event that you do a potluck, people will love it and they will come back because potlucks make friends. Everybody loves a potluck, right? So you have your potluck on this table here, and you just encourage people to lay their journals out onto this table here and to get ideas from it. So now people are, because it's a potluck, if it's bag lunches, then everybody's on their own, eating their lunch, sitting on their own stone. But if it's a potluck, everybody's kind of together and they're talking to each other and they're kind of interacting. Make sure that you're following local county guidelines about how safe it is to get together post, COVID. If Delta is surging in your area, probably not a good idea to have this event yet. But here you are, like, right? Everybody's kind of interacting with each other. It's totally fun. And also, you get to go over and you look at the table and you see all these different ways that people are doing their journaling. And then people gather around the table and they're looking at people's ideas. This is a great time for you as a facilitator not to be emphasizing what are the pretty pictures, but we talked before in other classes about giving feedback to people, noticing what people have observed, kind of geeking out on those observations, looking at people's questions, looking at strategies that other people can use. I just don't recommend it. You don't want it to turn into an art contest on the table, right? And in some of our other workshops, we've talked about how to talk about student work, all those ideas. Then you're also kind of looking around at this and kind of noticing who here, by looking at their journal pages, who here is a really good botanist? Who's a really good birder? Oh, she's got crazy skills on this. And this one over here, that person has probably been drawing for a long time, right? And then you just have another kind of activity where people can kind of go out and they're going to spread out. They know they're going to meet back together at a predetermined time. But you can also go and talk to that person who's a really good bird watcher. and say like, on our next trip, would you be interested in, I saw that you're doing some things in your journal about birdsong. Could you just teach the group maybe a 10-minute little workshop on birdsong? And then you looked over here and you saw that this is the person who had a lot of drawing experience. And you liked the way they did some kind of landscape things, or maybe you liked their lettering or whatever it was. And you say like, the next time we have an outing, could you do a 10-minute workshop on how you do that lettering? That's really cool. I'd love to learn that. And they're flattered, and then they want to come back. They've got buy-in. It doesn't have to be you doing all that sort of stuff. All you have to do is kind of sort of initially set the stage. All these people and what they bring to bear are the resources. If you notice that there's somebody who asks great questions, ask them to do a little workshop at another time on how do you ask better questions. So just notice, if you see something in somebody else's journal that you want to learn, you can then tap them to share that with the rest of the group next time. And then as you're describing it, next time we're going to go to this other lake. And we're going to have a special workshop on, you name the topic. Then everybody comes together, you do a final journal share out, and people will disperse. You will find, though, that after lunch, the group is always smaller. Group tends to get smaller after lunch. That's okay, don't take it personally. And you can just either have a shorter program or just sort of have a smaller group after lunch. And that's perfectly fine. Another thing that you can consider is if you want to make this sustainable for you. And this is kind of a topic for a deeper conversation on another day, but it is okay to ask for donations. Or if this is an event that you have it advertised in advance, you can have a charge for it. You can say that, come do this, and it's, it's $20. It's whatever price you feel comfortable with. The more effort and energy you're putting in, the more kind of teaching and facilitating you're doing, the more hoops you have to jump through, the more you can ask for. But it is okay to you're just trying to make this sustainable, and if this helps fund and support and finance you and your family for the work that you're doing it, that's okay. I use a donation system where I put out a can and I say, a $20 suggested donation. And I find that many people are able to do that. And it makes, I can go lead a field trip, and it also helps support me. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, that's okay. But another day, we'll have a group conversation about kind of the whole money side of this, because there is a very kind of strange idea that we have culturally. And that is that if you're doing something that is good, you should be doing it for free. But I believe that it is okay to do good and to do well. And otherwise, all the people doing good, their effort is not sustainable. Topic for another day, but I will often, when I put out my can, I usually put that out in the morning and also have it out and available at lunch. And I find that if I put tips, write the word tips on the side of the jar, that you'll get a lot of quarters. If you write suggested donation $20 on the side of it, then there's a lot of $20 bills in there. Again, a topic for another day, but that it is okay. You're not sort of with the ethos and the ethic of the Nature Journal Club. If you are charging for something or if you are accepting donations, that's totally okay. So that is just kind of a quick run through with tomatoes. And I hope that the tomatoes helped you visualize what was going on there with everybody. And then, but look at how happy these tomatoes are now, right? And they are coming away, as Billy Joe was saying, their bucket was filled today. these tomatoes really had their bucket filled by this experience of being out together. And you can facilitate that experience. You don't have to be the artist. You don't have to be the scientist. But you are going to be a little bit of a wrangler and the logistics of this event. And with that, all of us can have really successful events that expand people's lives and lots of happy tomatoes.